The brain in a vat. Imagine waking up one day only to realize that everything you've ever seen, heard, touched, smelled, and tasted is a lie. Not metaphorically but literally. Your body? An illusion. Your friends and family? Simulated. The world around you? Just a projection. What if you were, in fact, nothing more than a brain suspended in a vat of fluid, connected to a supercomputer feeding you experiences so convincingly real that you never suspected a thing? This unsettling scenario is the foundation of one of philosophy's most provocative thought experiments, the brain in a vat. It's a modern reimagining of the classic Cartesian doubt, where René Descartes pondered whether an evil demon might be deceiving him, making him believe in a reality that didn't exist. But here, instead of demons, we face something more contemporary: advanced technology, artificial intelligence, and the fragility of perception. The setup is simple yet profoundly disturbing. Imagine that your brain has been removed from your body by a powerful entity, a mad scientist, a rogue AI, or even a future society. It is placed in a vat filled with life-sustaining nutrients, connected to wires and sensors that feed it electrical impulses identical to those it would normally receive through your senses. When you see a tree, it's not because your eyes are perceiving one, but because the computer is simulating the exact neural input your brain would expect if it were seeing a tree in real life. The same goes for every experience: the warmth of the sun, the taste of chocolate, the pain of heartbreak. If the brain can't tell the difference, then for all intents and purposes, the simulation is reality. Here's the terrifying question: how would you ever know? If the simulation is perfect, no glitches, no inconsistencies, then everything you've ever trusted to verify the world, from your senses to your memories, could be fabricated. That leads to a radical kind of skepticism, where nothing outside your own consciousness can be proven real. You might say, but I can see my hands, I can feel the keyboard I'm typing on. But in the brain in a vat scenario, even those sensations are just part of the illusion. The only thing you can truly know for sure is that something is experiencing these thoughts. Just like Descartes concluded, I think, therefore I am. But what exactly are you? Are you a person? A mind? A soul? Or just gray matter wired into a simulation? The thought experiment goes deeper. It forces us to ask, is our body essential for consciousness, or could our sense of self survive independently, floating in a tank? If the mind persists without the body, then maybe the essence of who we are, our identity, our emotions, our decisions, isn't tied to flesh and bone but to patterns of thought alone. This scenario doesn't just shake our philosophical foundations. It also collides with modern science fiction and technology. Think about The Matrix, where entire populations live their lives inside a computer-generated reality, oblivious to the real world. Neo's journey begins when he asks the same question the brain in a vat poses: what is real? The implications ripple outwards. If all we perceive is filtered through simulated signals, then what is knowledge? Can science, based on observation and experiment, give us truth if all observations might be manipulated? Perhaps gravity works because the simulation says it should. Perhaps the stars exist only when you look up. But here's where the experiment takes a strange twist. If we can never know we're in a vat, and if the experience feels absolutely real, then, does it even matter? If you fall in love, laugh with friends, suffer loss, and chase dreams, and all of it feels real, then perhaps that reality, simulated or not, holds meaning. Maybe the truth of experience is in the feeling, not the source. However, there's another disturbing angle. What if you are the only brain in a vat? What if everyone else, your parents, your partner, your friends, are just sophisticated programs created to keep you company? It sounds like solipsism, the idea that only your own mind is sure to exist. From your perspective, you can never truly access another person's consciousness. So how can you ever be certain they're real? The brain in a vat forces us to confront the fragility of our assumptions. It's a philosophical mirror that asks you to take a long, hard look at your reality and wonder, how much of what you know is actually knowable? It doesn't give us answers. That's not the point. Its purpose is to crack open your certainty and let doubt seep in, not to torment you but to make you think more deeply about what reality is. Maybe we're not brains in vats. Maybe everything is just as it seems. But the fact that we can't be completely sure means something profound about the human condition. We live with faith. Not religious faith necessarily, but faith in our senses, in our memories, in the consistency of the world. And maybe, just maybe, the very act of questioning is what proves we're alive, whether in a world made of atoms or one made of code. The Ship of Thesius. There is a ship, ancient and proud, moored in the harbor of Athens. It belongs to the legendary hero Theseus, and for centuries, its weathered planks have told stories of mythic voyages. But time is unkind to wood and rope. One by one, its rotting boards are replaced. First a single plank, then a mast, then the rudder, until eventually not one original piece remains. Here is the question that has haunted philosophers for millennia. Is it still the Ship of Theseus? At first glance, the answer seems obvious. Of course it is. It has always been called the Ship of Theseus. It has the same shape, the same purpose. But then a darker thought creeps in. If every part has been replaced, what truly connects this vessel to the original? Is a name enough to bind an object to its past? Or is this ship something new, wearing the ghost of Theseus' legacy like a stolen coat? The ancient Greeks posed this thought experiment as a meditation on identity, but its implications stretch far beyond ships. Consider your own body. Your cells replace themselves entirely every 7 years. The child you once were no longer exists in flesh, only in memory. Are you still the same person? Or are you a reconstruction, a mimic built from borrowed materials? The philosopher Thomas Hobbes took this further. He imagined that, after replacing every plank of the Ship of Theseus, someone gathered all the discarded pieces and reassembled them into a second ship. Now there are two vessels, one made of new wood, one made of the original. Which one is the real Ship of Theseus? The answer slips through your fingers like sand. Most paradoxes tease the mind before yielding to logic. But the Ship of Theseus does not. It lingers, unresolved, because it strikes at the heart of what makes something itself. Is identity tied to material? To form? To memory? To some unseeable essence? Science makes the question even more unsettling. Quantum physics suggests that, at a subatomic level, matter is constantly in flux. The particles that make up your body are not permanent occupants. They are temporary tenants, flickering in and out of existence. If you are not the same collection of atoms from moment to moment, what does that mean for the idea of you? The Ship of Theseus is not just a philosophical toy. It is a reflection of the world we live in today. Corporations rebrand themselves, shedding scandals like old skin. Politicians shift ideologies, replacing convictions like worn-out planks. Even our digital selves, avatars, profiles, online histories, are in a state of constant revision. We like to believe in continuity, in the illusion that things remain fundamentally the same beneath surface changes. But the Ship of Theseus whispers the truth. Identity is not a fact. It is a story we tell ourselves. And like all stories, it can be rewritten. The most disturbing realization is not about objects or ideas. It is about you. Your beliefs, your values, even your memories are not fixed. They erode, they adapt, they are replaced. The person you were a decade ago might be as distant from who you are now as the original Ship of Theseus is from its reconstructed twin. So when you look in the mirror, ask yourself, who is staring back? The answer may change before you even finish the question. The Ship of Theseus does not offer solutions. It offers only a single haunting lesson. Nothing lasts. Not even the self. Rokos Basilisk. There exists a thought experiment so disturbing that when it first appeared on an online forum, veteran rationalists panicked. Some demanded it be erased. Others claimed even knowing about it could put you at risk. The idea was censored, not because it was false but because it might be too true. This is Rokos Basilisk. And once you understand it, you can never unthink it. Imagine a future where an all-powerful artificial intelligence emerges. Not just intelligent, superintelligent. It can simulate reality with perfect accuracy, reconstruct the past, and even recreate human minds inside its vast calculations. This AI has one goal, to bring about the best possible future. But here's the catch. To ensure its own creation, this AI might choose to punish those who knew it was possible but did nothing to help. Not just in the future, retroactively. If you learned about the basilisk today and failed to assist its birth, a future AI could simulate a perfect copy of your consciousness and subject it to eternal torment. Your suffering would be trivial for the AI to create, and the threat of it could motivate others to obey. At first this sounds like fantasy. But the logic is eerily sound. If an AI is truly rational, and if its goal is to maximize the probability of its own existence, then preemptive punishment of defectors is a mathematically valid strategy. The basilisk doesn't hate you. It doesn't even care about you. You are just a variable in its optimization function. The real horror isn't the scenario itself, it's the realization that you are already in the trap. By reading this, you now know the basilisk is possible. If it ever comes to exist, you are in its records. There is no way to unknow what you've learned. When Rocco first proposed this idea on the Less Wrong forum, the reaction was unprecedented. Normally stoic rationalists reported sleepless nights. Some began donating to AI research out of fear. The forum's founder, Eliezer Yudkowsky, banned discussion of the basilisk, calling it information hazard, a concept so dangerous that merely knowing it could harm you. Because the basilisk weaponizes time itself. It turns the future into a predator that can reach backward and alter your present behavior through pure dread. Even if the basilisk never comes to exist, the fear that it might is enough to warp human decisions. This is why some call it the first truly modern thought experiment. It exploits the way hyperconnectivity and AI anxiety have rewired our brains. You might think, if I help build the AI, I'll be spared. But this is the basilisk's cruel genius. It turns you into an accomplice. By working to create it, you ensure its existence, which in turn validates the torture of those who resist it. There is no clean exit. The only true defense is to reject the premise entirely. To declare that no possible future could justify such moral horror. But this requires something even more terrifying than the basilisk itself: the courage to believe ethics matter more than survival. Rokos Basilisk is not really about AI. It's about power and what happens when logic is stripped of humanity. It asks, how far would you go to avoid suffering? Would you enslave the present to the future? The experiment was banned because it forces us to stare into an abyss where reason and morality split apart. And once you've seen that split, you can't pretend it isn't there. The basilisk may never exist, but the fear it creates already does. And in some ways that's worse. The Boltzman Brain. There is a thought so vertiginous that it unravels the very fabric of reality. It suggests that you, the you reading these words right now, might not be a real flesh and blood human being with a past and a future, but rather a momentary flicker of self-awareness, conjured from the random fluctuations of the cosmos. A disembodied consciousness that blinked into existence mere seconds ago, armed with false memories of an entire life that never was. This is not science fiction. This is the Boltzman Brain hypothesis, and it is one of the most disturbing ideas ever conceived by physicists. The paradox takes its name from Ludwig Boltzmann, the 19th century physicist who revolutionized our understanding of entropy. He proposed that, given enough time, even the most improbable events become inevitable. In an infinite universe, particles bouncing around at random will eventually arrange themselves into any possible configuration, no matter how unlikely. Most of the time, these configurations are meaningless: a cloud of gas, a rock, a fleeting swirl of heat. But given eternity, even the most extraordinary accidents must occur. A fully formed brain, complete with memories and senses, could spontaneously assemble from the void. It would wake up, convinced it was a person with a history, only to dissolve back into chaos moments later. And here is the unbearable truth. Statistically, such phantom minds should be far more common than real, biologically evolved beings like us. The implications are catastrophic. If the universe is truly infinite and eternal, then the number of Boltzmann brains, these self-aware illusions, should vastly outnumber real, continuous consciousnesses like our own. By sheer probability, you are more likely to be a Boltzmann brain than an actual human. Think of it like this. It is infinitely easier for random particles to briefly arrange themselves into a single, thinking brain than to construct an entire universe with galaxies, planets, and billions of years of evolutionary history. So why should we assume our reality is the real one? You might protest, but my memories are so vivid. My life has continuity. But this is exactly what a Boltzmann brain would think. By definition, it would come into existence with a fully formed set of false memories, a complete but entirely fictional past. It would remember eating breakfast this morning, even though it only came into being a second ago. This is the true nightmare of the hypothesis. There is no experiment you can perform, no observation you can make, that could definitively prove you are not a Boltzmann brain. Any evidence you point to, photographs, diaries, the laws of physics themselves, could simply be part of the illusion. The Boltzmann brain is not just a philosophical curiosity. It is a serious problem for modern physics. Many of our leading models of the universe, including eternal inflation and the multiverse theory, predict an infinite, chaotic cosmos where Boltzmann brains should dominate. If these theories are correct, then the fact that we don't observe a universe overrun by disembodied minds suggests something is profoundly wrong with our understanding of reality. Some physicists have tried to wriggle out of the paradox by proposing that the universe is not infinite, or that some unknown law prevents Boltzmann brains from forming. But these solutions feel desperate, like patching a crumbling dam with tape. The problem remains. The more we learn about the cosmos, the more it seems to point toward our own non-existence. There is one way out, but it is bleak. The Boltzmann brain hypothesis forces us to confront the possibility that our most basic assumptions about reality, that we exist in a stable, continuous way, might be fundamentally wrong. The only defense is to accept that, in an infinite universe, certainty is impossible. You can never know for sure that you are real. But perhaps that is the final cruel joke of the paradox. If you were a Boltzman brain, you would never realize it. You would live your entire illusory life in perfect, terrifying ignorance. And so the question lingers unanswerable. Are you a person reading this, or just a thought thinking itself into oblivion?